Jerry McDonald says, I've seen some pretty hideous performances from the Raiders in the last 26 years. That loss to the Chiefs ranks near the top or bottom. Ass kicked on both sides of the line, all three phases, two god-awful turnovers, dramatically outcoached on their new home field. Yikes.
You like that tweet?
That was a strong tweet from Jerry McDonald. I did watch them and think that, they whatever it is, they're a little lost right now. And this is an additional take to that, which is the AFC West is over. In what's been a wild year, now it's going to be about them trying to find their tracks in time for the wild card.
Chiefs play the Cowboys this week, so it's, they're not, but
yeah.
Big picture, the Chiefs are back in the driver's seat. I'm with you. I think it's twofold. One, the Chiefs are just better. I mean, Mahomes is a far superior player than Derek, and Derek's good. Andy Reid is an all-time great coach. He's coaching against an interim coach, a special teams coach that was the interim coach. And they said early on in the game, Rich told, I think, Al and Chris, like, not in a million years would I have wanted my chance to come like this. And I think sometimes when you hear stuff like that, because I know you thought that the Ruggs thing played a role last week, and I thought it was more that just Derek played poorly, but maybe he played poorly because he's trying to force stuff because of, like, more football-wise, but that just kind of hanging over them. It's clearly derailed their offense. That's, to me, regardless how emotionally they've been able to compartmentalize, right? Or they talk about it a lot or they don't talk about, it has really, really derailed what they had going for them as a dynamic offense with a young star player. Now, granted, tonight, his replacement, fucked up pretty badly, right? That fumble.
Yeah, Deshaun.
The game was, the Raiders had a quick 2-series moment where it felt like they could hang in the game. Derek gets hot, leads them on the drive, scores with Bryan Edwards. They get the ball back. He's leading them on another drive. And Deshaun fumbling that ball, the Chiefs score, and then the floodgates open.
Yeah, the fumble.
I don't think they were going to win the game anyway, if Deshaun doesn't fumble, but they would have been in the game.
Yeah, I don't think they were. I thought first half they looked really out of it. They made plays, but I still believe the Ruggs thing affected them last week, and I still might be from an off the field standpoint. I would fully understand if it does continue to affect them. It's a pretty significant trauma, right?
Well, it was so bad. You notice they didn't even touch it tonight. It's like you don't touch that on a broadcast. I don't know
how do you do it? Because everything they do, if you notice, Al's very good at, like, I'll tell someone's life story between snaps, and that one you can't do.
Like Joey Molinaro.
Oh, the segues, yeah, the segues. Oh my God, that was so good.
It was good.
That was so good. But I also think there is just a fundamental football element to not having Ruggs as well. But whatever it is, they're off. The other thing is John Gruden was their head coach. Is there at some point, for as much of a roller coaster as he was, you lost somebody that was a big part of your game planning every week, right? That was a big part of your plotting, a big part of he was in charge of the chess that you played. So does that over time begin to just, cost you? I don't know, but I think there's something very wrong with them, and I think it stems from they've had an incredibly they had a 2.5 week stretch there that was insane. And I don't know. I'm wondering now if they'll be able to recover from it during this season.
You could argue, I don't know the exact number of weeks. It might have been a 4-week stretch from the Gruden emails to Damon Arnett. Like those.
Was it 4 weeks? Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it was longer than I thought.
Yeah, because I think there was a gap. Because remember, they had won a couple games once Gruden got fired.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
With Ruggs, and then the Ruggs thing happened, and then Arnett has the doom gun and threatened to. I watched it for the first time, I think on Saturday. I didn't realize how vocal he was on there. What he was saying, like, bro, this is pretty nuts. Saying he's gonna kill some people with guns. Like, bro, are you a fucking moron? Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen any human in professional sports do on social media. Threaten to kill someone with guns. Like, bro, you're on the team. What do you think's going to happen? Like, hey, just put that 9 and the doom gun away, bro. You're good. I know you're not even playing that well and you're injured, but, like, yeah, no big deal. Like, what are you talking? I couldn't. I was floored. I mean, I knew it was stupid, but I thought he was just showing gun. I didn't look into it until I clicked and played it. I was like, this is insane. That to me is like, you had that guy in the locker room. Like, what? Are we sure they're locker room vibes for what Derek and some of those guys are able to bring to the table? Did they have some clowns in there? I mean, holy moly. And the Chiefs, to me, they ran into a buzzsaw of like, yeah, I mean, one of the best coaches in the league, one of the best players in the league. And look at his two friends who have been they've clearly been off, right? Tyreek and Hill, Tyreek and Kelsey, the whole thing is like, can you get these guys going? Tonight, it was like those two guys you cannot stop us.
Yeah, it felt, especially to me, like Kelsey was always right there in the moment when they needed him by design. It'd be like Collinsworth would say, this is where they go to Kelsey. It's like, boom, there's 13 yards.
Yeah, and he had some of his vintage, like, even a play, I mean, it might have been designed. There was one play where he was blocking Crosby, and I think it was like to take a deep shot, and then he just lets go, and Mahomes dumps it to him, and he makes
block catch.
And he goes like 15 yards, and it's like, well,
everything
if he's
worked.
Do that tonight. You're in Kelsey's numbers tonight, I mean, he had 8 for 120, but it felt bigger than that. And Priest Holmes had 9 catches for 100. Tyreek had 7 for 83 with 2 touchdowns. I mean, Mahomes 70%, 35 of 50, 400 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, 70% on 50 attempts, John. You have to include that when you do 70% on 50
as a
attempts.
PFF guy pointed out, turnover-worthy play on the 31, the catch that he had. The touchdown where he kind of made
giving this guy a chance, turnover-worthy play if you're throwing it to John Middlecoff, but
I also thought
his
Derek,
guy.
And again, it's Ruggs. He had the 2-series stretch where he threw some BBs, but for the most part, hasn't quite looked as good. They needed an All-Pro Bowl. I know he's not an All-Pro, but like a Pro Bowl level performance from a $35 million potential quarterback, and they just didn't get that.
Yeah, no, I think they. Again, I'll repeat it. I think there's I think there's something that's a hangover, whatever you want to call it, and I think that's part of this. Now, this is also just a huge game, and as somebody pointed out, where did this go on the stream? That Andy just owns this division. This is Quinn. Listen to this. It says Chiefs have lost 6 divisional games since 2015. 3 of those were on Thursday night, last-second plays. One of them was when they rested their starters Week 17 last year. Andy owns the West. Is that true?
Well, the Raiders beat them once last year, and the Chargers just beat them. I don't know if that's true. Chargers beat them this year.
6 divisional games have lost 6 divisional games since 2015. Let's check that. But
the Raiders definitely beat them last year, and the Chargers beat them this year. So that's 2 losses separate from the ones he just listed, right? So he might be a little off.
Is that stat coming into the year? Maybe.
Yeah, I remember one of the walk-off plays, Phillip Rivers threw a corner touchdown. Do you remember that game, Thursday Night Football? Rivers had a miraculous game against them.
So you just counted 2. Last year, Raiders 3. Last year was the Week 17 Chargers 4. 19. They did not lose a divisional game in 19. They went to the Super Bowl. We're still at 4. 18. They lost to the Rams on Thursday Night Football. So we're up to 5. 17. Come on. 2017, they lost to the Raiders on Thursday Night Football. So we're up to 6. This is still not going to be that much more than 6. 16, they lost no divisional games. And 15, they lost to Denver. They lost to Denver on a Thursday night. So what was that, 7?
So you're right. That was probably the stat coming into the season. You had the Chargers game this year.
Yeah.
You know the last time they didn't win the AFC West?
Was Steve Avery on the Braves? How long has it been?
I mean, they've won it 16, 17, 18. They've won it 6 straight years. And they win it again. That's 7 straight division titles.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive, right? And think about this guy. 13, 14, 15. He was second. You know who was first? I mean, it was Peyton Manning in Denver, right? They went to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. So it's like he was right there. Once Peyton left, it was on like Donkey Kong. And if they had a moment, I was texting with Schwartz tonight. He's like, everyone was shitting on him because they had the worst month in a 4-year stretch. Like, can you guys take a breath? Like, they had some weird games. Everyone's like, the Chiefs are done. It's like, no, they're fine. They fucking own the division. To me, that's where they own the division.
Yeah. Well, I think, and we'll talk about it with quarterbacking, and it's these things play out over a period of time, and 3 weeks don't make a season. I mean, the Patriots were once declared dead. What week was that? Remember, didn't they lose badly on was that a Thursday night in September?
But do you know when it always happens, Guy? It doesn't happen in November and December. They were 2-2.
Right.
I'm
just saying these things need time. Like the Chiefs started hot this year. Did you see the stat they showed? They were over 30 points per game in the first 5, I think is what it was.
The last 3 games they'd scored 36 points. I think Bruce said tonight.
Well, they went boring early in the game, and they stopped being boring.
In a weird way, Andy's Chiefs tenure has been better than his Eagles tenure.
Well, it's probably had less lows, right? Plus the Super Bowl.
He's had no lows. I mean, he's been second. The worst finish is second. Now he missed the playoffs one time in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is his 9th season. He's made the playoffs 7 out of 8 years, and he surely is going to win the division and make the playoffs probably again as long as Mahomes stays healthy, right?
And what was he in Philly? 13 years?
13 years, made the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 of 13, that's pretty good, right?
It is.
Went to 4 NFC Championship games.
But you said he's missed the playoffs how many times in Kansas City?
Once in 8 years.
Once in 8 years. So this is year 9. Let's say he makes it year 9, and you said he was 9 of 13 in Kansas City. He'll be 8 of 9 here.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy smokes. All right, the Raiders, John, have now lost back-to-back games since the bye. They play the Bengals at home this week. Were the Bengals on a bye? I didn't see the Bengals today.
Yeah, I think the Bengals and the Giants did not play.
All right, Bengals on a bye, so they get the Bengals off a bye, whatever that means.
The Bengals are 5-4. It's a big game for them.
Yeah, and they're good, right?
They're not bad at all.
Then Dallas, then the fighting Heineke's, then the Chiefs again, then at Cleveland, Broncos, Colts, Chargers. I mean, it's going to be really tough now, right?
I would pick
it's going to be really tough.
I would pick them to not make the playoffs as you and I sit here right now. How about you?
Yeah, I went from the last time you asked me that question several weeks ago, after Gruden's firing, maybe it was after the Eagles game, I said, yeah, they're making the playoffs. I didn't have any doubt. I seriously doubt it now.
To me, I pivoted. The Ruggs incident / him being gone has changed the way I look at the team.
Completely. More than Gruden.
Way more than Gruden. I think it destroyed them. Because Ruggs is one thing. Deshaun is still fast. But like Deshaun is like a sports car that once did. That's a bad analogy with what happened with Ruggs. But he was a guy that used to run a 4.2 that feels like Deshaun's probably 4.45, which still faster than most people. But like Ruggs was still a true like young Deshaun running 4.2, right? That's an extra step. That's an extra. Deshaun like is still fast, but he's not as fast as he once was, right?
No, which is part of the reason I think maybe he kind of did that little spin move that everyone on Twitter couldn't figure out. Like, why is Deshaun doing that? I wonder if he doubted if he could outrun the person who was chasing him.
Well, I think people question why he turned not at the end zone, right?
Yeah, well, it was the old fake-a-roo. I'm going the other way.
Which he's been known to do, right?
I'd forgotten. You know who
he's taken, I would say, in our lifetime, the most bizarre routes to the end zone historically.
You know who did the run parallel to the end zone before Deshaun did it?
No.
I watched the clip. I watched Thursday night, last Thursday. I went on YouTube and I watched 10 minutes of Gus Johnson's greatest calls just to get myself in the weekend mood. And he had his famous call is, Gus used to call the NFL for CBS. I think Gus called one of either Tom Brady's first start or his debut. It was Gus.
I didn't know that.
He had this famous, it's Kyle Orton and the Broncos in like a tie game, and Orton throws some sideline ball that gets popped up. Brandon Stokely snatches it out of the air. Final seconds, Gus is screaming, Stokely! Well, Stokely, with the clock winding, gets to the end zone. People are chasing. He runs parallel to the end zone to take as much time off the clock, and then finally scores with like 2 seconds left on the clock. So anyway, I think it's partly that Deshaun's not as good as him, and I think it's partly, and we see it in the Bay Area, you see it wherever you're a sports fan, you know this, The guys that are your guys just feel different, especially early, right? When you drafted him, when he developed with Derek, it's different when a new guy just steps in. You go, okay, do what that guy was doing.
Yeah.
It's just different.
It's not the same.
So
I mean, look at because he went, it was just the perfect mix. And the Chiefs
was.
have that. The Chiefs
they went from the perfect mix to feeling like there's 3 guys missing. Didn't it feel that way?
It feels weird. It feels very bizarre. But they're only missing one guy, yet it throws off the whole thing. Where the Chiefs, I mean, those guys can kind of finish each other's sentences, right? Hill, Kelsey, and Mahomes, and really like Pringle and and Hardman.
If you put them, are they the same person?
But they've been there the whole time, right?
It's true.
So like those guys will leave, and they'll just have some other skinny guys that run 4-2 next year, right? Whenever those guys graduate out of their first contract, they'll just draft a guy in the 4th round from McNeese State that's like Tutu's cousin, and it'll look the same. Guy looks like he weighs 175 pounds. He'll kick return, and they'll throw him some deep routes, and he'll just mix in with the crew. Like that's the lock of the century. Get ready for that.
Moose said Leatherwood has costly penalties every game. I thought you and I were talking about this before the show. I thought the first penalty on the Mariota play, I haven't heard an explanation for it. I mean, he didn't flinch. He just started moving early. I wonder if here's quarterback coach Haberman, John. My backup quarterback's job is to learn the cadence and try and sound exactly like the starter. So that when he gets under center, there's no difference in like hot. It's all exactly the same. There's no extra pause. I don't know what happened with Leatherwood, but maybe Mariota just has a little pauses a little longer than Derek does, and it threw him off.
Well, one thing they said tonight, I would agree with that, is that the Chiefs studied the TV copy of Raider games. Having walked by Andy's office for 2 years of my life, that guy has sports on in his office 24/7, 365. And a lot of coaches like Saban, I think a lot, and maybe it's true, they go like, I'm just locked in. I'm not watching anything. That's not Andy. Now he's doing his own work, but a game is always on in the background. Now, obviously on Sunday he's coaching, but Thursday night and Monday Night Football, do you know where Andy is? At the office. What do you think he's noticed over the years of some Raider games? And maybe his coach, maybe his assistant coaches have too. Derek screaming. So he's probably tells Spagnuolo, like, bro, or maybe gets their quality control guy, rip every home game that Derek plays. And I think Hitchinson told Collinsworth that, like, yeah, we matched it up with their audibles. And we thought, we got a pretty good idea of what's going on. Like, that's just, maybe you don't need to scream loud. And again, I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but I'll promise you, Andy's in his office fucking powering down a little post-dinner snack going, okay, we got something here. And then you just start matching it because when he's yelling something, you can see, this is what these guys do for a living. I mean, you and I wouldn't be able to figure it out, but the quality control guy, the linebacker coach, the coordinator, and the player, they could do enough studying and like get a couple ideas. Like, this is what they're most likely when he's saying this, right?
Yeah, yeah. Do you think are the mics different? Like,
it does feel like he's louder, right?
It definitely feels like he's louder. Do you think they eliminated the John Gruden's wife audible from the playbook? Bruce Allen.
That was kind of funny, but he does just yell like whatever, like a couple specific things that feel dramatically louder than the other games I watched. Like, the Patriots have that thing turned down. I'll promise you that. I've never heard anything with Foxborough.
Yeah, I know.
He would never want that out, right?
John says, you both are morons if you think Andy is the only coach in the NFL doing this, LMAO. But why do people since when did the internet get so negative? I don't understand, John.
I don't either.
David says, what is Andy Reid's post-game snack?
I think he told me when I talked to him a couple years ago at the Combine that he cleaned up his diet, but when I got there, it was 2 McDonald's cheeseburgers and 2 things of Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream.
I said snack.
Yeah, it's a snack. I mean, he's a big guy. He's tall too,
The Shills says the Raiders are emotionally done. I think it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be difficult. And again, the schedule, John, the schedule. Like, forget about any of that stuff that's hard to identify. The schedule is really difficult.
Yeah.
And who's fixing the problems that they have?
Back to that comment, guy talking some shit. We were not saying the Chiefs were the only one doing it, but we were saying the Raiders are intentionally, it feels like, louder than these other teams, so they're there to be had. And when you got a coach that, I don't know, what's the math? 9, 8, 17 of 22 years has made the playoffs, he's probably going to pick up on more shit than the average slapdicks around the league, right?
You just reminded me. I got to show you.
What did I tell you about special teams, guy? Who ran a special teams fake
Dave
today?
Taub. Is it Taub? Taub? How do you say his name?
Yeah, it's the Taub.
How about the punter run? It was a back shoulder throw, John. They didn't just throw it.
Well,
it was like
what do you practice it?
Holy smokes!
Do you know that
you've been
Mitch
demanding
ran a 4.65? Mitch ran a 4.65.
Mitch Wishnowski. I told you
he's special teams fake.
He's run trick plays at Utah, and he got a penalty one time for spiking the football.
Taub's throwing Rodgers back shoulder throws just for fun, and everyone is just, the Niners are losing by 20. I mean,
yeah, it's you texting me. No, it's a good call. Now the Chiefs did it up. What was the score of the game when they did it?
They were up, 20 points, but it was
Niners you got to be up 20 to run it down 7. That would impress me.
They did it like a nail in the coffin FU play. I was just saying use it for a spark play.